I paid less than $40 for all of this stuff, and James is going to continue to talk about Cantos. Most of the stuff that I got, you know, I feel a little bit like, well, maybe I shouldn't get it because it's not so healthy, but whatever. I got it for less than 75% off. So James is going to talk about the Cantos. I also got this for free today from the library because they give away treats, and that's what triggered all of this buying. For, you know, $35 for these treats is
power shopping.
Really, yeah.
These dogs are hanging really around because they can smell this pepperoni.
Yeah, they want the pepperoni, and they'll get it. You know, that's for them. Most of the stuff, like these things weren't 75% off and more. But a lot of everything else was. Like I paid less than $1 for each one of these, for example, and 25 cents for each of the rice crackers. So, and I mean, these bars ended up being a little bit over 10 cents each for, like the whole box was 84 cents and there's 8 bars in. So honestly, I don't know. I mean, we've been getting stuff like this for free from the library for treats. But just one each. And so I thought, well, we have been eating it. So that's why I got it. And now James is going to talk about the Cantos for you.
So, I should have been. Yeah, that's right. So I said I'm going to overlap with what I did yesterday. Canto 3, I sat on the Buchanan steps. I presume that's the wife of the Doge or Doge. So that's the ruler of, or used to be the ruler of Venice. For the gondolas cost too much. See, gondolas. Not talking about gondolas in the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
The gondolas cost too much that year. And, here he is back to starting line. As we call starting lines with and. And there were not those girls. There was one face. And, there we go. And the Bucci Toro 20 yards off. And the Bucci Toro, what is that? And the Bucci Toro, where? 20 yards off. Howling stretti.
I know you want.
And the lit crossbeams. So that's 3 in a row. Starting with and. That year. And the Morosini. And, well, that's 4 in a row. And peacocks in Correa's house, or there may have been. Or there may have been. Why don't you just say there may have been? What's going on there, Ezra? You're wasting words again. Gods float in the azure air. You know, he could actually said gods float in azure air. You know, air you can actually say. They float in the air, they float on air, or something like that. But he has to have the there. Even though he drops, you know, bright gods in Tuscan. Huh? So, you know, like if what he should have said is, bright Tuscan gods float in the azure air. Not gods float in the air, bright gods in Tuscan. See how he's repeating stuff unnecessarily, chucking stuff in? I think this guy may be loved and better than any other writer in the English language. Back before dew was shed. Right. Colon. And the first light. Yeah, what? Light and the first light. Like what does that mean? It means this guy didn't really have a good self-editing kind of instinct. His instinct was, I'm a genius and whatever I think off the top of my head is freaking brilliant!
Hello, my darling.
Light, and the first light before ever dew was fallen. Before dew ever fell. So, was is not needed. The en on the end of fallen is not needed. Before dew ever fell. Panisks, and from there's another and. Boy, this guy loves the ands. And from the oak dryas, and from, so dryas is a opening. And from the apple Milad, I guess is how you'd say it. That might be an apple nymph or something, apple tree nymph. Through all the wood and through all the wood, and the leaves are full of voices. A whisper. Talk about the 1890s when they were using things like a whisper in very bad poetry. And this is very bad, not poetry. Let's not be pretentious. Ezra Pound and his acolytes and stuff like that. This is just bad prose. A whisper, and the clouds bow over the lake, or bow over the lake. He spelled this B-O-W with an E on the end, which seems a little bit archaic maybe. I don't know. Yes, I do know. It's stupid. And there are gods upon them. Upon them. Upon the clouds it is. And in the water, the almond white swimmers. So it should be, in the water there were almond white swimmers. He doesn't like there were, but he sure loves and. The silvery water glazes the upturned nipple, as Poggio has remarked. Who cares about Poggio? Is he important? Green veins in the turquoise. Well, you know, you can actually refer to turquoise without calling it the. Green veins in turquoise. It's one of those kind of collective nouns where you can, like water, you don't have to say the water. You can say in water. Air. You don't have to say the air. You can say in air. So this guy will throw in thes where they're not needed, but he'll drop them out all over the place where they're needed. Or, now, I was talking about this, yes, why does he have or? The gray steps lead up under the cedars. Or, huh? He's given a description. It ain't a logical discourse. But he's got an or in there. It doesn't go anywhere, you know. He's just got a phrase there. The gray steps lead up under the cedars. Period. My Cid wrote up to Burgos. So it should be my Cid from now on here. Unless he's quoting something. Yeah, up to the, I think it's mi Cid. Is it in present day Spanish? Up to the studded gate between two towers. Beat with his lamp spot, and the child came out. What child? What child? You put a child if you haven't referred to the child yet. You don't have that child came out. This is lousy prose. Not poetry, and it's not good prose. Hence, not a classic. Una niña de 9 años. So he's pretending he knows Spanish, okay? A girl of 9 years of age. There's a little gallery over the gate between the towers, reading the writ, Voce Tenula, or Voce Tenula. I think that's Latin for, it's not kind of like a tinny voice. Why it's Latin, I don't know. What's the point? He's showing off. And it's okay. He's trying to put you guys down. But he can't put me down. This guy didn't hold a candle to me. Like holding up a candle against the sun. I've studied way more languages than this bozo did.
Hello, my darling.
And I know enough to know he's just, he was just a dilettante who just kind of dipped into a few things, and then he's throwing these things out, you know, at you. That no man speak to feed, help Rui Diaz, on pain to have his heart out. Well, that's kind of like, on pain to have his heart out. I mean, he's giving a translation. When you translate in the English language, you use modern idiom. Unless you have a really good reason. On pain to have his heart out. So you're not supposed to speak to feed, or help Rui Diaz. Or otherwise you'll have your heart out. Huh? Just use modern idiom, Ezra Pound. You died in 1972 or whatever. That's into my lifetime. Just 3 years before Pauline was born. You don't write stupid garbage like that. Set on a pike spike, and both his eyes torn out, and all his goods sequestered. Sequestered? Okay.
Stay with me, Opie.
I just, wow, these fellas are going wild. And here, Mio Cid, are the seals. So, he said, my Cid rode up to Burgos. So, yeah, this is in quotes, Mio Cid. You're translating, you put it into modern English. You don't leave it in the original kind of like old-fashioned Spanish. You have, and here, my Cid, are the seals. You don't have Mio Cid, spelled M-Y-O, Mio. God. The big, sorry for cussing.
No.
The big seal and the writing.
Did you?
What was, I said God, so.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think people consider that a swear.
Well,
maybe some do.
my parents would. And,
yeah.
People who shared the religion.
Yeah.
And he came down from Bivar.
You're right.
Mio Cid. So now it's him using the Mio Cid. So he's not even quoting anymore. No. And he came down from Bivar, and all he should just say is El Cid. Then we understand. And it should have been that at the beginning. That's how we call them in the English language. El Cid.
You still have it. You should.
With no hawks left there on their perches, and no clothes there in the presses. And, yeah, what are the ands in there? And left his trunk with Raquel and Vitas. So it should be with no hawks left there, if he's going to give a listing, on their perches, no clothes there in the presses, and left his trunk. You know, like, what? You know, just too many ands. With Raquel and Vitas. That's not Raquel Welch for any of you folks that don't have a good sense of history and chronology. That big box of sand with the pawnbrokers. So he left his trunk, his big trunk full of sand with Raquel and Vitas. But no, he's got to have, and left his trunk with Raquel and Vitas, that big box of sand with the pawnbrokers. Now, are Raquel and Vitas the pawnbrokers? No. So what this should be, I presume from reading it here, he left his big trunk full of sand with the pawnbrokers, Raquel and Vitas. But no, he's got to break it all up and left his trunk with Raquel and Vitas, that big box of sand with the pawnbrokers, to get pay for his menier, which I presume breaking way to Valencia. So this is definitely Spain. Valencia is in Spain. That's where we get presumably. Are there such things as Valencian oranges? Valencia oranges? Yeah. It's on the Mediterranean. Ignace de Castro murdered. And Castro actually means beaver. Check it out.
Did you want me to heat some of this up for hot chocolate for you?
Yeah, sure. That'd be very pleasant.
Okay.
So it should be Ignace de Castro was murdered, not Ignace de Castro murdered. This is a new sentence. And a wall here stripped, here made to stand. Okay, so is it like there was a wall here that was stripped and another here made to stand? I don't know. Or was it here stripped and made to stand here? Or, well, it's not distinguished between here and there. Here made to stand. Now, what is... It should be here and there. So why is it here stripped, here made to stand? Was it stripped down and then made to stand again? What's he talking about? This guy's gibbering. Drear waste. So there's a new sentence. The pigment flakes from the stone. Or plaster flakes. What? Okay. Now, Mantegna painted the wall. So Mantegna was an Italian writer. Maybe a wall. Maybe he painted a wall in Spain, in Valencia. Who knows? Silk tatters. Nek spe, nek metu. So nek means neither. Spe, hope. Nek, neither. Metu, I believe, is fear. Neither hope nor fear. Huh? Mercifully, relatively brief. But you know, a sonnet's way smaller or shorter than this. Way harder to write. And even lousy sonnets, like most of Shakespeare's sonnets, will actually give you, and yeah, Shakespeare was not very good. But at least he tried. He's better with a rhythm, but There's problems there too. Canto 4, on page 13. Oh, lucky 13, eh? Palace in smoky light. Huh? What? A palace, the palace. Palace in smoky light. Again, we're starting off with telegraphies. Troy but a heap of smoldering boundary stones. So this would be the aftermath of Troy. Troy got burned. It's like William, yeah, check this out. This is William Butler Yeats. This is real poetry. Hector is dead, and there's a light in Troy. We that look on, but laugh with tragic joy. See how he says a lot? There's a light in Troy. That's called understatement, eh? There's a light in Troy. It's going to get bigger and bigger and burn it all. That's William Butler Yeats, the contemporary, earlier contemporary of this bozo. I think Yeats died in 39. This guy died about 72. Palace in smoky light. But Troy, but a heap of smoldering boundary stones. Oh man. Anax Ephorminges. So Anax, I believe, is the Greeks ultimately dropped out their W. And I think this is a survival from a word that used to have a W. They used to actually have what do they call it? A digamma or something like that? That rendered W. And it was at the beginning of this word, wanax, which is one of the words for king. It eventually the word became basileus. So if you run across a guy, like I had, when I was younger, called Basil, his name means king. Basil Rathbone. He used to play Sherlock Holmes. Or, yeah, the guy was from a former British colony, and he used to thank me for calling him Basil instead of Basil, like everyone else did. Oh, yeah. Aurunculier. Hear me. You know, I'm listening, guy, and it's a pain. Cadmus of golden prows. So Cadmus came from Phoenicia, according to Greek so-called myth or legend. It's history. Cadmus was a Theban prince, and the Phoenicians colonized part of Greece. They call it, from what I can tell, colonized Crete. And they set up a thalassocracy. It wasn't just in Crete, it'd be in Phoenicia too. So they didn't, in Crete, when they took over, from what I can tell, linear A is Phoenician. They looked at it and said, hey, there's Phoenician words in it. Or they'd say Semitic words, because the Phoenicians weren't supposed to have existed in Mycenaean times. That's before the Trojan War. And actually, not until significantly after the traditional or conventional dating for the Trojan War. It's both. Traditional dating goes back, for the Trojan War, goes back to Herodotus, who was around 2400 BC, or 400 BC, 2400 years ago. And we still accept that dating. Okay? Cadmus of golden prows. No, he brought writing, Phoenician writing, over to Greece. And the rest is history. The Greeks originally did it boustrophodon, which is how a cow or a bull goes plowing a field. They'd write it this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then this way. And eventually, the Phoenicians would have written from right to left, just like the Hebrews or Jews still do, just like the Arabs still do, right to left. The Greeks changed it around for a while to boustrophodon, and then they changed it to the way we go, from left to right. Okay? Also, they added the vowels. The Semitic writing systems don't have vowels. And you're saying, how could they do that? And what I'm saying is, with great difficulty reading. Okay? The silver mirrors catch the bright stones and flare. Dawn, to our waking, drifts in the green cool light. So he should have a semicolon there after the silver mirrors catch the bright stones and flare. Dawn to our waking drifts in the cool, green, cool light. He's got a semicolon here. He hasn't used an and yet. What's wrong with him? He must have been sick or something like that. Dew haze blurs in the grass, pale ankles moving. Well, you know, dew haze blurs, pale ankles moving in the grass. See how he screwed this up? Dew haze blurs, comma, in the grass, comma, pale ankles moving. You can actually say dew haze blurs, pale ankles moving. It seems kind of clumsy, but what it should be is dew haze blurs, pale ankles moving in the grass. But he's got to be different, because he's a poet, not beat, whir, thud in the soft turf under the apple trees. So, is that the pale ankles moving? Beat. I mean, I hope it's not a goddess. Can you imagine? It's almost like thump.
Well, it must be the footsteps.
Yeah, I know, but beat. It's like clubs coming down in the grass. This guy's stupid. Whir, thud. So whir is maybe like a bird wing coming through the grass. Thud. That's worse than beat.
He's just trying to copy that part of Ulysses, where James Joyce was using words that for sound. Do you remember that?
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
James Joyce had trouble with his eyesight. And you notice increasingly as his writing went on, he'd emphasize more and more sound over vision.
Oh.
Yeah, he had to have operations and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing a picture of him with the
patch on his eye. Makes him look like a pirate. Yeah. And it makes him look like a real hero, I'm telling you. I've never seen pictures so good as James Joyce with the eye patch on.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you said that. I'd never thought of that. That's why he was using that. So it's even more ridiculous that Ezra Pound is using it, because he doesn't have any reason to.
It's a hearing. It's just like, what?
Just to be a copycat.
Okay. Like pale ankles. Like, you get the impression it's kind of like a fairy or something like that, you know, like the old-fashioned use of the word. And, that's just kind of swishing through the grass. He does have whir, but clubs beating down. Whump, whump. Why didn't he put whump, whump? I don't know. He's maybe working up to that. Chorus nympharum. So that would be chorus of nymphs in Latin. So he's chucking Latin in there. He's given you Greek before, just a few lines before. So why not chuck a little bit of Latin in there, eh? Goat foot. Oh, it's the goat foot. Okay, so it's a goat coming along. Goat foot with the pale foot alternate. But he doesn't have it alternating. It's like beat, whir. That's maybe the pale foot. That would be the chorus of the nymphs, right? And then thud in the soft turf. It should be beat, whir. He says it's alternate.
Oh.
You see? Yeah, stupid, with a pale foot alternate. So this pale stuff, it's left over from the 1890s. It's one of the worst characteristics of William Butler Yeats from that point in time. William Butler Yeats, I think, was born in 1865, and so he was like in his 30s in the 1890s, the latter half of them, and everything was pale. Pale this, pale that, pale face, pale whatever. And crescent of blue shot waters, so it should be a crescent of blue shot waters. So I presume that's a lake, or could it be like a crescent
of I think it's
river?
Ripples. No?
It's just one crescent, right? Oh. Crescents, ripples would be. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking crescent.
Blue shot
waters, like you throw a rock in and you get a ripple. Yeah. That's a crescent.
I think it's like shot with blue. You ever heard that term? Green gold in the shallows. So it's blue shot, but it's green gold in the shallows. So maybe he's observed something like that. A black cock crows in the sea foam.
I mean, if he was a better writer, then you'd want to actually try to figure it out, but it's just not worth it.
You know, I have got a lot of patience with parts of Ulysses and pretty well all of Finnegan's Wake, because there's an intelligence behind it. And I am telling you, James Joyce he was so anal, it's retentive, it's incredible. This guy was anything but. It's just diarrhea. Okay, what's it like?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, there we go.
Well, more than that.
A black cock crows in the sea folk. Here we're back on the ends. And by the carved foot of the couch, carved foot of the couch, clawfoot and lion head. So I presume that's a lion head and a clawfoot carved on the 1 foot of the couch. So an old man seated. So no, an old man was seated. Speaking in the low drone. What? Why would you say speaking in the low drone? Wouldn't you say speaking in a low drone? Speaking in the low drone. This guy had trouble with his articles, I'm telling you. Flebilator.
Good boy.
And she went toward the window and cast her down.
So much because there's pepperoni there.
Now, would you ever say about someone who committed suicide, saying she cast her down?
Okay, that's a lot of kissing.
You would say she threw herself down. Cast is old-fashioned in this sense. Cast is what you do with a fish line. And you don't say cast her down or threw her down. You say threw herself down.
I know.
Otherwise you're going, who did she throw down?
Oh boy.
She threw down another woman.
Oh boy.
She cast her down. Who's he referring to?
Okay, lots and lots of kissing.
So now we've got a quotation. All the while, swallows crying. So, is that in the original? All the while, swallows crying. Why would you, in a translation, if you're trying to do poetry, would you have the while, all the while? Already, you've got all the while. That's all of the while. You don't have another the while there. That's a redundancy. Swallows crying. Itten. Swallows are crying. It is Cabeston's heart in the dish. It is Cabeston's heart. Is it? It is Cabeston's heart in the dish. No other taste shall change this. And she went toward the window, the slim white stone bar, making a double arch. Firm, even fingers held to the firm, pale stone, swung for a moment, and the wind out of Rhodes. That's Rhodes, I presume, but he's put a Z on the end. So what is that? Like, is it an old-fashioned spelling for Rhodes? I don't care. When you translate, you put it into modern idiom. You idiot.
Oh my.
Caught in the full of her sleeve, the swallow's crying. Tis, it is, which I presume is itten in a different case. Actaeon. So Actaeon was set on by stags. What does Actaeon have to do with this suicide? And a valley, I should say. The valley is thick with leaves. Yeah. You already said they're thick with leaves. You don't have to say leaves again, or with leaves. They're trees. Okay, so they're trees, not bushes. So the valley is thick with leafy trees. The valley is thick with